Good morning. So if you're watching, you chose to do the Kandinsky abstract circle painting. So here's one that's finished. And I have some different ways you can do it. This one was done with white crayon and then painted with watercolor. So if you have white crayons and watercolors, that will work. If you're face-to-face, you do have those available to you. If you're home, you may or you may not. This is one that is done just with tempera paint. Which I'll show you in just a minute. And I also have one I'm going to do with just oil crayon. So let's get started. The first thing that you want to do is have a piece of paper. I've got a nice long piece. The size of your paper is going to determine how many squares you have and how many of these super cool dots that you're going to do. So I'm going to use, this is a 16 by 8, which means if it's divisible by 4, so I can fold it twice in half this way, open it back up, and I'll get 4 sections, and then I can fold it in half this way. This is just to help me have some kind of a grid. If you have a paper that's like a 4 by 4 paper, or let's say an 8 by 8 paper, you could take a 9 by 12, which is just a copy paper, and cut it 8 by 8. Then you would have 4 squares, and that would be fine. It wouldn't have to be long. It could be square, but I'm doing mine long. So, next step. If you're going to use crayon or oil crayon or colored pencil or anything like that, I'm going to use oil crayon. You're just going to start and do a different kind of a dot in each square, much like Kandinsky did in his abstract dot painting. And we call these concentric circles. It's like if you throw a rock into a lake or a pond and you see those ripples go out bigger and bigger and bigger. That is a concentric circle. It's a lot of circles around one point. So I'm going to keep doing this around and around and around until I fill up my square. Now, you could, depending on what you have available to you, you could color this all the way out to the edge with your oil crayon if you don't have any paint available. If you have paint available, you could use watercolor and go over the top of this with watercolor and it wouldn't stick to your crayon, or you could fill in the outside edge with watercolor. And you could do that for each circle. So that would be one way to do it. So I would start again. I would start in the next square. I might use a little different color. And that concentric circle idea is to put a point in the middle and then to go around that point and go bigger and bigger and bigger, just like you would see in a lake or a pond. Just like that. You can repeat colors. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 circles to do. So here's one that I have that is almost finished, very similar to doing it with the oil crayon, except I used paint. So if you have paint available to you, tempera paint or poster paint is what, if you go to the store, sometimes they call it poster paint. But I have these, they are tempera cakes. I have these in the art room. If you're going to choose to use those, you can use those. I also have watercolor. Watercolor is better to use if you're doing it crayon first and then going over the crayon, because you use just one color and the crayon will resist it. So I'm going to get some more water on my brush here and make this circle bigger. So all of the circles in this painting have been done with watercolor. Make sure you wash your brush really good between colors. And if you are using the paints in my room, you want to make sure you rub those tempera cakes to get your paint nice and thick. These are a new kind of tempera paint, so they actually, ooh, that's a pretty green. They actually coming out really, really nice and bright and thick anyway. So I'm going to keep doing that all the way around. And then I'm going to, once I get 3 or 4 circles done, I'm going to get some more paint. And I'm going to paint the background around it a color. And I'm going to do that 8 times because I have 8 squares. Just like that. Finish this up. Make sure you use the right brush for the job too. If you need, like I probably could have used a bigger brush for this background. I'm kind of using what I have here at my camera. But in your painting bins at school, you have 3 different size brushes. At home, use what you got. So there's another circle. So I have 1 more circle to go. Another thing that you can do to really jazz this up, if you've chosen to paint, is to go back over some of these, and you can see I did that here, go back over some of them with additional oil crayon. Here I did it with the white oil crayon. So I could choose to go right in here, and I'm pressing hard, and I'm adding some additional, just a little bling, just a little more punch of color or punch of creativity right there, just to make those circles pop a little bit. And you'll notice I filled this, except for the one I haven't finished yet. I have filled this so there really isn't any white paper showing. This one that I showed you at first, I used just white crayon. You could use a white oil crayon, or you could use a white regular crayon. Just make sure you press really hard. I made all of my circles. They were really hard to see when I started, but then afterward I took a set of watercolors, and when you go over that with your watercolors, the crayon resists that. That's called a watercolor resist, because wax and water do not mix. And then I filled in my circles that way, and this is just another way that you could do a Kandinsky abstract dot painting. I can't wait to see what you do. I can't wait to see those of you that chose this lesson, what you come up with. Do your very best work and have fun.